and welcome to the Overcoming Medica Hair Loss Summit. My name is Valerie Fuentes. I'm your host, and today I am with Hattie Gilford. She's my trick journey, also known as my trick journey. And I found her through Kelly, who's Hair Loss Boss. And I was fascinated with your story just because you're already advocating at such a young age. And that's definitely what we need in the world right now. Like, I feel like a lot of people in the hair loss community, whether it's trichotillomania or alopecia, when they're young, it's like really hard to talk about it. So I really, really admire you for speaking up and advocating. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about trichotillomania. It's really exciting.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what trichotillomania is, can you tell us a little bit more about what it is?
Yeah. So trichotillomania is the uncontrollable urge to pull out your hair. Now, this can be hair anywhere in your body. It tends to be your head, your eyebrows, or your eyelashes, but people pull it out from anywhere. It's the most common question is from people that don't have trichotillomania is like, why can't you stop? And I guess with someone that has trick, that's quite frustrating, but quite understandable that it is hard to understand why somebody would pull hair from their body. And it is this uncontrollable urge that you kind of need to focus on and try and understand if you can. And I think the best way to explain it is trichotillomania is in this family called body focused repetitive behaviors. In this family, you've got dermatillomania, which is skin picking too. And then there's a few others, but nail biting is the other. And that's what I try to explain to people. It's in the same family as nail biting. Either you bite your nails or someone in your family bites your nails and probably can't stop. It's very similar behaviors to that.
Okay. Do you feel any pain?
No.
As you're pulling, or is it okay?
No, yeah, sorry.
You don't at all?
No, I don't. It's so the area I pulled out is literally. I've got a topper on. Sorry for anyone that's watching. Is like, what? So it's I pulled out my hair all the way around in this area here. If I pulled out my hair from lower down there, my eyelashes, my eyebrows, it would actually hurt me. But in that area, it I guess it releases. It's called like dopamine or endorphins, and it's like that. It's like releases like that nice pleasure feeling rather than pain. But if I personally pulled out anywhere else, it would hurt, just like it would probably hurt you.
Okay, so it's just that area that you don't have pain. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. And so when you started pulling your hair, like, what was that like? What did you feel? Like, did you feel different? Did you feel, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure you were aware of what you were doing, right? So you had to have some thoughts about what you're doing. So what were you thinking?
So I started pulling out my hair when I was 8, and just to sort of explain it a bit better is, like I was saying, body focused repetitive behaviors. My mum paid me £10, £1 per nail to stop biting my nails. It was a lot of money when I was 8. Think of all the 1p sweets I could get. So I guess I'm money focused. So at 8 years old, it worked out really well, and I stopped biting my nails. And I it's hard to say it, but like transferred that habit. I don't want to downplay it by calling it a habit, but at 8 years old, I transferred nail biting to hair pulling. And it's because I'm 27 now, so it was a long time ago when I started. But I do remember being on a long car journey. It was like 6 hours. I remember being in the back of the car. And I don't know if it was the very first time I did it, but I do remember pulling out a hair and just inspecting it. And I've always been really intrigued by the follicle. I've always been fascinated that you can pull out a follicle, like it's quite a bigger follicle, and you can literally like pull it out of a hole. And I was just, I guess at the age of 8, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I don't know why, but it just was, I guess it's just fascinating, isn't it? It's just something different I didn't know about my body. And I was like, okay. And I guess I was just pulling more and more out, just like, oh wow, this is interesting. What is this on the end? I didn't know what it was at all. And that's my first memory. I don't know if it was my first time, but that's what I remember, being 8, on a long car journey and just being really intrigued by it all. And then I guess I continued to do it, and my parents started to notice when I had a bald patch, And I blamed a kid at school. I blamed a kid called Alistair, and I told my parents he'd pulled it out. I think they worked out pretty quickly I was lying. I'm not very good at lying still now, but I did try and blame him.
And so like at some point did you feel like something was wrong with you, or did you feel normal? Because like that's like for me personally, right, when I started losing my hair, I started like with guilt and self beat up, like what's wrong with me, there's something wrong with me. So I want to know, like, did you ever had any feelings of like, oh my god, I'm broken, or I'm, you know what I mean, like something is wrong, or you just saw it as I pulled my hair and I like it?
Yeah, it's really hard, because I guess now I'm at this stage of being very comfortable with it and being very open. I think sometimes it's very easy for me to forget about maybe how I used to feel about it. I would say most of the time I have been at peace with it for most of my life. I'm not gonna lie, there are days still now where I get pretty down about it, and not as often as I used to. I remember being taken to the doctors and them just being like, just stop. And I think maybe that's when I felt a bit alone, was when the doctors don't even know what's wrong with you or how to help you. That is where you do feel quite isolated and on your own. But kids never treated me differently, and I think maybe that's really helped me to be this person that's quite confident about talking about it. Kids at school were never cruel to my face. I didn't cover it up. I didn't really know how to. I had a bald patch all my way through school. I mean, I got better at it at high school, but I think because kids accepted me, I felt accepted. And unfortunately, I'm sure many people won't have that same experience, but kids were always very kind to me. So I guess that
That
helped me.
actually makes a lot of sense, that because you were accepted, then you loved yourself, right? Because I think that like that's our biggest fear, is not being loved by other people or being criticized by other people. So maybe if you were in an environment where you were loved and accepted, then wow, that's pretty powerful. So what would you say to somebody that, you know, it's just recently starting to pull their hair, or like, yeah, like it's just starting with trick?
I think, yeah, I would say that for people that don't know heaps about trichotillomania, is a lot of people do start adolescent. They reckon that most people start between about 8 and 12. That doesn't mean that you can't get it when you're an adult, but I guess my advice would be, it's baby steps. You can't, like any addiction, I guess it's an addiction, you can't just go cold turkey. You can't just stop straight away. You're allowed to be upset about it. You're allowed to not understand why you do it, but if you can take a step back, and I find writing things down really helpful. It's actually why I like Instagram. I kind of use it as a diary. But if you can sit down, and I guess first of all, what's really important is to work out when you're pulling. I think, and it wasn't until I started doing cognitive behavior therapy, like over the last year, that I actually realized I never pull my hair out when I'm walking. But it wasn't until I started talking to someone about it that it started to make sense. So if you can't find someone to talk to, then just start writing things down. Work out when you pull, what feelings you have when you pull, maybe what emotions are attached to pulling. You know,
Right.
are you anxious? Are you sad? Are you worried about something? Have you fallen out with somebody? Are you worried about, I don't know, something's happening the next day, the next week? Has something bad happened in your life? And I guess if you can work out all those feelings, and you can start to work out when you're likely to pull, you might be able to find things to help soothe you in other ways. And I'm not saying it's instant or anything like that. I mean, it's taken me 18 years to work this out, so it's not that easy, but I would recommend anyone to get therapy. And I know that's scary and it's hard, but I think it's the best thing. I think everyone should do therapy, whatever you've got. If you don't have a condition, or you do. But I think for trichotillomania, the best thing you can do is like cognitive behavior therapy, habit behavioral therapy, anything like that. And what I've learned recently is I always made excuses. I was always like, oh, there's no one around me that knows anything about trichotillomania. I don't want to do it, or it's too hard, or it costs lots of money. But I know in the UK, for example, you can get it on the NHS. I don't know in other countries how healthcare works, but especially in the UK you can. But the biggest barrier for me was, this therapist doesn't know anything about trichotillomania. Well, in the last 5-6 months, we do everything by video call now. And it really opened up my eyes to the fact that actually I can talk to anyone now. It doesn't have to be someone in your state if you live in the US or...
Oh yeah, totally.
So I found someone recently. I had a therapist who was great and lovely, but she hadn't really experienced trich, and she helped me a lot. But then I realised that there was someone in the UK that did have quite a lot of experience with it. So I've changed to her, and we just have video calls, and it's just really good to have a check-in every 2 weeks. And I feel like I've gone on a tangent, but basically my advice to anyone with trichotillomania would be to get therapy. You have to believe in it. You have to want to help yourself, and you have to want to do the homework that they give you. You can't just go to therapy and think they'll give you a cure for your trich, because they won't. You have to try so many different things, because what works for me and has helped me won't necessarily work for you. It's all about, I guess, your personality and things like that. Like when I was 8 and my mum offered me money, that was great. I mean, if my mum had offered me money for every hair I stopped pulling out, I would be a happy girl. But I found that having a star chart really helped me, because I'm quite rewards based. I quite like that pat on the back, like, well done, go you. And that won't work for everyone. And some people would be upset to see a day that they failed, but it worked well for me. But it's just trying different things. So I guess fidget toys are another thing. Barriers are a really good thing. So that's like a hat, a wig, long acrylic, horrible nails, wearing gloves, things like that. That's really important. But I guess when a barrier is not there is when you're going to pull out your hair.
Right.
So if I was struggling with pulling out my hair, long acrylic nails really help me, because it means that I can't. But if I took them off, it's quite likely that I would go back to pulling out my hair, because that barrier that's stopping me isn't there anymore. Which is why I always say to work on sort of the mental side of it too, the mindset,
Right.
and get therapy. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the same approach that I tell everybody to take, whether it's trichotillomania, alopecia, or anything, right? Like, the mindset is everything, because, whether you get 100 wigs or whatever, if you're still not feeling good about yourself, you're not going to look good. You're not going to feel good, right? Like, our emotions is so important, if not the most important thing. So I totally get it. So when did you start wearing hair?
So I got my first piece in November last year. So
Oh, wow.
not that long, but it feels like I don't know anything different. And I'm literally looking around my bedroom, and there's like wigs and toppers hanging on everything. I actually feel very sorry for my boyfriend. Oh my god, we were away the other week, and I had my tripod with me, and I had a wig. I had nowhere to hang it, so I put it on the tripod by the bed, and he didn't realise I woke up in the middle of the night and literally went across and like punched it, because he basically thought something was over the bed. It was like 2 a.m. But yeah, I started last November, and it's great.
And why until now? Why didn't you wear hair before?
So I actually had a integrated piece when I was like 16. I went to a consultancy in London and had it for 2 years, and my hair actually grew back under it. And this will help me explain my barrier thing again. So I couldn't get to it, because for anyone that doesn't know an integrated system, it's literally like pinned down, pull your hair through and bond it. I could not get to the area that I wanted to pull. So like I was saying before, I wouldn't pull anywhere else. It was literally here. So I had that for years, and my hair grew really well under it. It cost a lot of money, and I guess I started to feel guilty at 18. I was like, oh, I could get a car probably for what my parents very lovingly and kindly spent on me. So I came off after 2 years, and I went to uni, and after a couple of months, I think just the stress, the hard life of partying so hard got to me and I ended up pulling out my hair again. And this is sort of, I guess, that barrier. I had that amazing barrier, but I didn't do any therapy. And I guess I wish someone had maybe told me at the time that was a good idea as well. Because otherwise those urges are still there. If you don't learn how to cope with them, because they're so strong, it's just always going to keep coming back. So it's like, I have a little toolkit, I guess. I have a little toolkit with me all the time, and which is why I still do my therapy even though I haven't pulled my hair out in 300 days, is because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Something really bad could happen in my life, and I could want to go to my coping strategy. So, yeah. I was going on a tangent.
So what do you think? That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what do you think has helped you the most to make it to 300 days? You're so close to a year. Oh my gosh.
I know. I actually, the other day, I was like, what am I going to do? I like my rewards, so I think I need to, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. Thank you. What's helped me? I guess one of the main things was actually creating my Instagram account. It's not for everyone. It's hard to have, I guess, an open account. It does leave you a bit vulnerable in a way, but that made me really accountable. I guess as more people started to follow me, I felt a lot of accountability for my actions. I felt like I needed to do it for everyone else, not just me. I guess having wigs and toppers helped because that was my barrier. And then I started to really learn how to become aware of my actions. And it's really hard to describe. And it's why I'd say go to therapy, because it will teach you. But it's about that. When am I more likely to pull? What can I give my hands to do rather than pulling out my hair? And I'm dumbing it down a lot because it was exhausting. I basically had to think all day, every day, where are my hands? What are they touching? Am I trying to pull out my hair? No, what can I put in my hands instead? So it was a combination of a lot of things. And I think instead of just trying one thing and then giving up, and then maybe a few months later trying something else, that not working, giving up, I was like, right, I'm going to just shove everything in here and I'm going to work really hard at it. But you've got to be ready. And I'd sometimes say that maybe before I wasn't ready to stop pulling out my hair, maybe I actually needed that comfort blanket still. You have to actually really, really ask yourself, do you want to stop, or do you actually really, really want to stop?
Right.
And I know some people with trichotillomania will be sitting there probably like, yeah, duh, everyone wants to. But if I'm being totally honest with myself, I probably didn't want to stop that hard. Otherwise, I might have got to where I was a bit sooner. But I think all the circumstances in my life just sort of aligned last October really well for me, and it gave me the chance to really put everything into it.
So was it October that you started your therapy?
I was trying really hard to get therapy. It was a bit hard at first. I was trying to get on waiting lists. They're quite long, which is, again, something that's quite hard and will probably put people off, and it put me off before. But so it wasn't quite. I read a lot about sort of mindfulness and behavioral therapy, and sort of not taught myself, but I guess I pushed myself along. But I was quite adamant I needed therapy ASAP for someone else to help me. There was only so much I could do on my own.
How has this affected your relationships? Because you mentioned your boyfriend, and I wonder, like, how does this affect your relationship, if in any way?
I think because I'm so, I want to say nonchalant. Is that right? Sometimes I use words and I'm like, is that what it means? About things that I think other people kind of read off that energy. Like, if I was to tell you and like quite hunched into myself and like maybe not look at you and look down and be like, I'm really embarrassed, I have this condition, I think people, read off you. So if I was saying things like, it's really weird, it's strange, then you're going, okay, so she's weird. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm putting those words in your mouth. Whereas like, I'm like, look, I've got this condition, it's called trichotillomania. It means I pull out my hair and I don't have control over it. It's very similar to biting your nails. Like, if you make it more of a conversation, and it is hard to be a bit upbeat about it, but I think if you open your body language and you're quite warm, and it seems strange talking about it with a big smile on my face, but I think it helps other people to read off you, because whenever you tell someone any news, they're always reading your body language. They're always looking at you to see how you want them to react. So I think because I'm pretty okay about it, other people are. So I've had a few relationships. Joe, please don't watch this. No, but like, I don't feel like I've had a problem with boyfriends. And I think some people are worried that someone won't love them. But if someone doesn't love you just because you pull out your hair and you have a bald patch, then they're not worthy of your love either. I have so much more to give than just my hair. So
Exactly.
I think, and it's hard. It's really hard because, you know, I don't wear tuffets and wigs all day long. Most of the time I've got this hair that sticks up. Like, Joe laughs at me every morning because it's about this long now. And literally just like in the morning, it's like that. I don't want to have to cover up and be embarrassed. And it's just really nice that I'm not worried at him looking at me and going, oh God, what is that? Like, if you like me like this, you've got to also like me with my weird, wacky bald head too. So it's probably not as easy as I'm making it come across, but I do think it's not just with boyfriends, it's with friends and family. If you can describe it in a way without putting words into people's mouths like weird and strange and embarrassed and things like that, then it will help the way that you talk about Trich.
I agree with you 100%. And that's what I tell everybody, that we get to lead the conversation and people are going to receive you the way you're projecting yourself, right? Like, if you're coming from a place of victim and like you're a victim of your condition and why me and poor me and all this stuff, that's how they're going to receive it. And that's how they're going to feel about you, because, you know, that's who you're being. Like, you're being a victim. If you're coming from a place of empowerment, you know, in control, right? Like, sometimes we don't feel in control, but like you said, like what you said of, you know, and I was thinking, I forget what you said, but I was thinking, not only helps them, but it helps you, right? Like, if you start talking about it from a place of empowerment, if you start talk about the good things, right? I guarantee you there is something good about it that you can share. You start believing that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you start believing your own story that way. So a good exercise that I tell my clients to do is like, write your story from an empowered place, so that when you share your story next, you're already coming from a positive side. And like, that's going to start training your brain that it's not all that bad, right? Like, for me, for instance, one thing that I love to share is that alopecia has made me super open and non-judgmental and caring, right? Like, I look at people and now I think like, well, you never know what's going on for others, right? Like, what's going in their private life. And I feel like I'm not judgmental anymore, because I went through so many hard times that I'm always trying to be compassionate with people. So, I mean, I don't know what it is for you, but I feel like we all can find like that good thing that our conditions have brought into our life. And that's what we can share, right? Like, we don't have to share the bad things all the time.
No, that's really, really good advice, actually, because I can imagine for a lot of people with trichotillomania, they'll say there's nothing good that's come of it, but I think you're completely right. I think I've probably learned how to be a lot more compassionate, and I completely agree with you about being open. I think it's changed my personality a lot, because I feel like I don't judge people for anything, and I guess because I would hope that nobody would judge me too. But yeah, I think there are many positives, and I think it's probably shaped my personality quite a lot.
Totally. So when did you decided to start your Instagram account?
So basically everything happened over a glass of wine with my best friend. We went out for dinner, and I was just talking to her about my trichotillomania, and then I was like, I think I'm going to start an Instagram account. And then I was talking to her more and more about it, and that's kind of where this was all literally last October. And it just all like stemmed from this like one conversation with her. Like, I wanted to start an Instagram account. I'd never thought of it, Instagram, to, I guess, help me. And I'm sure there probably are, were different Instagram accounts, or maybe not Instagram, maybe YouTube or things like that a long time ago that I just didn't realize were there. So I sort of was like, I don't know if there's anyone out there. And then I started looking at hashtags, and that's when I found like the, I always call it a secret community, because no one else is going to stumble on it. You don't just randomly find, which is why I think people feel quite safe, in the hair loss community, is because it is this little bubble that people don't really pop into unless you are trying to find it.
Want to, yeah.
Yeah.
And so what has that experience brought to your life? Like, because you were saying, well, it was more for me, or was it not for you? Like, what benefits has it brought you? Because for me, it has been life-changing, really, like the support and, having a community to rely on and like cheer me on, because that's, kind of like what happens behind the scenes. So what has been the experience for you?
Yeah, so I guess firstly, it was to make myself more accountable. I always feel like that was quite an important part. But then another one was raising trichotillomania awareness. At the time, I guess, when I first started it, I didn't really think anyone else talked about it until I dove in. So it was kind of like, right, I'm going to start. When people want to find me, or when people want to start looking about trichotillomania, I want them to find me. I want them to find my positive influence. Yes. I've seen some accounts that I sometimes find quite negative, and I just hope that they find mine, if I'm being perfect, because I really hope that I can make people feel the same way that I do, and just, I guess, connect with other people going through the same thing. And when I say the same thing, I don't just mean trichotillomania, like we were talking a bit earlier just before, is I've connected with so many people with so many different types of hair loss. We're all together through one little tiny thing, but it's funny how many relationships I've made with people across the world, that I check in with, nearly like every day, and just chat to people. And I think it's really amazing that we're all brought together, and like you said, this encouragement, this cheering, like, if you're having a bad day, it's pretty cool to be able to put a post on my Instagram being like, I didn't feel great today, I felt pretty fat. And people are just really nice. And, and you're not sharing your bad experiences, I don't know, for like all the attention. You like want genuine help. And I guess we're not all just wanting to talk about hair or hair loss all the time. Like, it's just really nice that there's just this load of people that are on here whenever I need them. It's really, really amazing.
It's amazing. And I think that's one of the main things why I was, so I feel so connected to your account, is because of that intention, because that was my intention too. And actually, like, I've been wanting to do this for like 2 years now, but that was my problem, or not my problem, but that was like what was stopping me, because I was thinking, how can I do this without focusing on the problem? Because I don't want to talk about the problem anymore. I don't want it to be negative. I don't like the word disease or illness or, all this stuff. I'm like, no. And I don't want labels either, right? Like, I didn't want to become the alopecia girl, right? Because I feel like I'm so much more than that. And that's what I wanted to bring in from the first post, from the first email. I just wanted to be positive from the beginning. But then I really got that I had to be that way in order for things to reflect that, right? So it had to start with me. And when I got that, then it was like, well, it can be a happy day, right? And again, like you said, it's not like that every day, right? Like, I have my days too. And I think I will have them for the rest of my life, because it's just what it is. But that's where the emotional work comes in. Hi,
sorry,
that's so cute.
This is Indy.
Adorable. Hi. And yeah, that's why you have to do the emotional work almost daily. It's a daily practice. You get to love yourself every day and accept yourself and, embrace who you are. But it doesn't stop. It's not something that you're going to flip the switch and then that's it. Like,
you're happy all the time. No, it's definitely work. And I think something I'm really trying at the moment is to learn more about mindfulness. And I find it hard. It's really, I think the benefits of it are so great, but trying to put it into your daily life is hard. But I think the more that I work on it, the more of this like positive and calming energy will come of it. I think that's the best way. Sorry, she gets jealous
no, you're fine.
when I'm talking. She just wants to get.
Mommy, give me some attention. Well, thank you, love, so much. Do you have any words of advice? Last words for the people that have a trick. Anything that you want to share with them.
Like, my DMs are always open. It takes me sometimes a while to reply because I want to take my time. But please reach out to me. I love talking to people. I love hearing people's stories. We all have so many different reasons we've got trick. But yeah, please reach out to me. And I think my number one advice would be just try and find some therapy if you can, because I just think it really, really, really helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys. I will see you guys in the next interview. And Hattie, I really hope we get to collaborate again because it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Lovely.
You're a sweetheart.
Thank you so much.
Bye.